welcome to Revitalize and Replant. My name is Thom Rainer. I am joined by Kevin Ezell, the president of the North American Mission Board. Kevin, I always have fun recording these with you because about the only time I get to see you these days since I have retired and don't do anything but these. I have really enjoyed this series on leading a low commitment church to becoming a high commitment church. I've been loving some of your insights on this.
Well, you're kind. Well, it's such a man. It's so important. I mean, we have tens of thousands of ineffective, low capacity churches out there that could be impactful, and so it's so important. You know that. I mean, you've been addressing it for years, but it's a huge problem.
Well, in the first episode of 3, which is 2 episodes ago from the one you're listening or watching right now, we gave the background on how churches became low commitment churches. And in episode 2, we looked at leadership, and we could have parked there for several episodes in itself about, it becomes cliche. And I think it started with Maxwell, but it's really become cliche. Everything rises and falls on leadership, but it does. And so we parked on that a while. Now we're going to talk about members. I like the fact, Kevin, that we said we had to talk about leaders before we start talking about church members and leading them to high commitment as well.
All right. Well, absolutely. It's again what separates really good leaders from average leaders are the ability to multiply themselves and really to develop people to even take over for them in certain roles. And I think the best leaders are the ones who do away with the need for them, then you can go and conquer some other area. And so
that's a good word. Great leadership does away with the necessity of all the things that you do. I like that. Mm-hmm. All right. Just a reminder, Revitalize and Replant podcast is sponsored by the North American Mission Board and churchreplanters.com. More than 10% of churches in North America are at the risk of closing, or they are very close to it. And the North American Mission Board is committed to reversing the trend by decreasing the death rate of existing churches and simultaneously increasing the birth rate of new churches. Find out more about this whole replanting churches, planting churches, evangelism. Go to churchreplanters.com and just a lot of resources, or go to the North American Mission Board site, NAMB.net. All right, Kevin, we're going to talk about the members now. And we hinted on some of these issues when we talked about leaders, because leaders do these things and the members are going to come along. Mark Clifton, your associate, your fellow worker at the North American Mission Board, by the way, doing a bang up job. Everybody I talk to just loves Mark and loves what he's doing. So there's another great hire by Kevin Ezell. Mark uses the phrase tactical patience, that when you go into a church, especially a revitalization, and a replant for that matter, but especially a revitalization, it's going to take time. It may take a year, it may be quicker than you think, or it may be longer than you think, but you have to be patient. Last episode, we said it begins with you, but you have to be patient because you may be bringing this to fruition one Cracker Barrel meal at a time.
Exactly. And I love that word because it's so true. Perhaps maybe he got that from his wife, actually.
Make the marriage last. Tactical.
Yeah, tactical. Yeah, sorry. Tactical silence. But that is so. Some guys want things. They get so excited. They read your book on high expectations, and which is a great book. But then they'll run out and want to do it, the next week. I remember back when I'd hear guys they want to change the worship service, so they put drums in the auditorium the next week. It's like, man, my word, that's just, you guys aren't using good common sense and some very tactical patience and plotting of doing it in a sequence is so helpful. And if you understand, look, you can't do it all overnight, but you can just one bite at a time. You can eat away at it and take care of it.
I'm going to give a shout out to a pastor who also works on the Church Answers team, His name is Matt McCraw, and Matt is a part of our team, but he's also pastor of First Baptist Church of Bartow, Florida. And it is a rural church in Florida. Florida does have rural churches, and it is an established church, and it's gone through split, at least one, maybe he said two, but at least one. And that guy has just been hanging in there year after year with no desire to go to the greener grass. He just feels called, and year by year, month by month, week by week, that church is transitioning to becoming a higher commitment church because Matt has tactical patience. I want to just love what he's doing.
No, he's a great guy. He was one of our interns at Highview.
That's right. That's right. He told me that.
The thing about it comes down to work ethic and a sense of he worked maintenance. He do anything. He didn't have this inflated view of himself. He's just a hard worker and puts his hands to the plow and moves forward, regardless of what role it is. End up working in the youth ministry, but it's the work ethic and the focus, staying faithful and focused to the finish. That's just, I love guys like that.
Well, we don't ask him to work weekends, but got a text from him. He said, "I think we have a situation," and I'm not going to tell you what the situation was, but I needed to know that day. And he's out there looking out for the organization on a weekend, and he just lets me know right away. I mean, just a great example. And I forgot that he had the connection with you. He told me that, and with Jimmy, both of you. So
he's fantastic. We've been so blessed to see so many of the guys come through there, and now pastor and watching them like that. Again, you see the ones who he just got grit, and not just pastoral grit. It doesn't matter what job he had. He had the same type of grit. If you work hard and you love people, God can use you to do anything in a church. They can put up with less than preaching abilities or whatever, but if you love people and work hard, my word, you're going to make progress.
Well said. So if you're this leader and you're leading your church to become a higher commitment church, you're right. You don't want to bring in drums one week. You don't want to change the worship style that is not recognized from one week to the next. You don't want to go out and change the church sign to another name without telling people. There are a few things, and that's the tactical patience. But regardless, when you lead a church to become higher commitment, you will lose some members, and you better be prepared for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And up front, look, you may lose some, but I promise you will move so much faster. And I remember so many times when that would happen, I thought, man, if I'd known it feels so good, I would have, hoped that would have happened a long time ago.
Yes.
And the more you lose, the more I think you understand how productive it can be. And you really underestimate how much they're holding the church back.
You do until you begin to see what it is like without them.
Yeah.
Carl George came up with a phrase decades ago called the berry bucket theory. And the berry bucket theory is you begin with a bucket where you're the only berry in there, and everybody else is in another bucket, and they're the ones who came in before you. And over time, some people will adapt and follow your leadership style. Some people will go away, but also the new ones that come in will be more likely to follow your leadership, and the berry buckets begin to balance each other. And that's when the real breakthroughs take place. That's what's happening in some churches. The breakthroughs take place from lower commitment, higher commitment. By the way, our studies are showing, depending on how you define it, our studies are showing that those breakthroughs take place somewhere around years 4 and 5. That takes a lot of patience.
It really does. Really, the church doesn't become, it's not a particular date, but this is a time, every church I ever pastored, there was a specific time where I just felt like, okay, I'm the pastor, it takes several years. So I don't know by title you are, but when you really are the pastor and you really feel like you have that tipping point where you're the leader, and that is not going to happen. You have to earn that. That's just not given to you by a pulpit search team.
And you can have victories before that. You can have a lot of victories.
Oh heavens, yeah, yeah, and that's what really leads to uh, getting to the tipping point. You need some of those victories, and some funerals, some weddings, and some walking people through crisis, and that's what helps get to the tipping point.
But most pastors, I was one of them. When you lose someone, it is usually painful. It's just,
Oh yeah, and
it rips your
painful.
gut out.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't matter how big the church is. I mean, it hurt when they were. It hurt when I had less than 10, and it hurt when I had more than 5,000. It you take it personal. And
Yeah.
what really is frustrating is why they leave. Like my
Oh,
word. Here's a guy I thought we were pretty good friends, and he leaves because he didn't get the electrical bid to do the fellowship hall. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, that's just over an electrical bid.
oh
I'm
my God.
still bitter over that, Tom. You
No,
can tell.
I can tell it all.
I didn't pull that out of the air. That actually happened.
I couldn't tell it all. You're right. And uh, I, we got a post at Church Answers in our forum called Church Answers Central. And it was, okay, we lost such and such. I've been at the church, I may be making up the number, but 7 years, and it still hurts a lot. How about the rest of you pastors? They all
Yeah,
jumped in and said, yeah, it does.
yeah, it really does, man. I think too, you just spend relational equity with people, and you just would hope that they would just tell you straight up, and then you realize just how. But I tell you, it helped me as a leader to know. Look, ultimately, that's my relationship with the Lord and my relationship with my wife and my kids. They're the only ones that are going to be really around.
Right.
And so you put your all in, but it really needs to be all in for the Lord, not to gain approval from people, because hey, they'll flat take your name off the door and put somebody else's on there really fast. There's something you need to realize when you look at church signs. The only permanent thing on the church sign typically is the church's name.
Yes.
They put
There's
the pastors
sliding
down there
pastors.
on a little plate on a swinging hinge below. That's so they take it off and they put somebody else's there.
There's a reason for that. The church is here, the pastor is not. Third, we have talked about the new member class. We've talked about it from the perspective that leaders need to have them. What is it about new members classes that's so important from the members' point of view to raise a church to higher commitment?
Well, to me, I always found it was easier to raise people to a higher commitment as they come in, rather than changing the ones who are already there. And so if I could start people out at a high commitment when they come in, their high commitment would help me bring the existing ones up as well.
Yes.
But they were much easier to start that way than to walk the others there, because there are years and sometimes decades of low expectation here, of themselves. That's hard to change.
And when you get these new members in, you're right. They not only come in with higher commitment, usually, they affect the culture to a higher level of commitment as well. So
Yeah.
you're right on both counts. What would you do, Kevin? Church member, you're all excited about them becoming a part of the church, they're a prospective church member, and they tell you they don't believe in membership classes and they don't go that path. What would you tell them at that point?
Well, honestly, I just learned to, then this really would not be the place for you. I mean, this just wouldn't be a good fit. I mean, you're welcome to come, but I wouldn't join here long term. If they already have that problem, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of issues they're going to have. No sense of accountability, or that's just a small thing. And if that small thing's a big thing, and at least for me, I would, in a nice, non, very humble way, just encourage people not to, and I do that all the time, encourage people not to join. I just it's much harder to deal with them once they're a member than you let them in like that, and
Let them in with caveat, they're going to have all kind of issues with you.
Yeah. There's a reason you don't want, have any members with asterisks by their name,
Well, no, you're not making a sports reference there, are you? Like,
no, I just said what I said.
national championship during COVID. You're not.
Oh no! I'm
I'm
in
not sensitive to
Atlanta.
that.
I'm Atlanta, the home of the World Series champs.
Oh, I know.
No asterisk here, baby.
I know. What a series. What a series. And even though it is February when they're listening, you and I are recording this in November and it's fresh.
No, I knew that. We're still world champions. Yeah.
What was the last time? 95, 98?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
It was 26 years ago.
Wow. Well, we've talked about the new member class being critical, but groups are critical too. Whatever you call the group, Sunday school class, a community group, life group, whatever you call that group, that raises the bar for the members because there's built-in accountability with smaller number of people.
No, absolutely. And I think the key there is for a pastor leader is to make sure, he doesn't verbally give a lot of favoritism to that group over the. I just found that can cause some angst and not let even that group help you bring the other groups up if you show too much favoritism or too much. You give too much acclaim to that group. But you're exactly right. It's much easier if you have a group. When we went to plant campuses, we had campuses, these campus groups, because they had such a great impact on one another. And man, they can grow and multiply so much faster.
Yep. I love it. So leaders, we've been talking about you in the previous episode, but now we're talking about members. If you want to raise the bar, the new member class is critical, but getting them to some type of small group is critical, regardless of the name of the group. Finally, the challenge is to move existing church members. We've talked about that. From an entitlement mentality, well, this is what the church will do for them. This is their music. They pay the bills, therefore they get fill in the blank. To actually serving, where the focus is on the other.
Right, and I think as you said before, it builds. If you can start with a core group, number one, then eventually a core group. It's basically, hey, you can either get on the wagon but it's leaving with or without you kind of a thing. And what I found is if you get enough momentum, you find some of these people are like, the kid trying to catch up with the wagon, wanting to get on. It's like, wait. I want to do that too.
Yes.
And
that's a good metaphor. It's in my mind.
Yeah. They get enough momentum. Everybody wants to jump on something that's winning, and it's moving. And they either go against it, so they want it like it was, or they'll want to jump on. And I've just found that positive momentum can really help.
Hey, forgive another shameless plug by me, but I've already started it, so I'm going to do so. I've got a book coming out in about 3 months from when this episode releases, and it's a book about what it means to be a Christian in the life of a church and in community. And it's called I Am a Christian. But it's the subtitle talks about, I don't remember the exact subtitle, but it talks about the idea of community, that it's hard to truly be that fruit-bearing Christian, that spirit-filled Christian, unless you're doing so in the context of a local church. So I have doctrine in there, but I also have what it means to be a part of the church. And it all comes back to what can I hand to members? I wrote a new membership book many years ago, but I wanted to include the truths of what it means to be a doctrinal Christian and other things in the context of that. And so this type of stuff has inspired me. And so for you listeners and viewers, that's a book that's not out yet, but it will be out from Tyndale in about 2 or 3 months from the release of this.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know that, man.
Well, I'm telling you for the first time and making a shameless plug.
You're doing some stuff in your spare time,
I'm doing a few things in my spare time, so I look forward to that coming out. Kevin, this has been a great 3-part series. Leading a low commitment church to become a high commitment church. You had some nuggets in these 3 series, some absolute nuggets. No, I'm not kind. Nobody's ever accused me of that.
Well, there's a difference between us. I have nuggets and you have books,
Nuggets become books and good nuggets become better books. Let me remind the listener that this has been a 3-part series, leading a low commitment church to becoming a high commitment church. In episode 1, we talked about how low commitment churches got that way. In episode 2, leading leaders to higher commitment. In episode 3, leading members to higher commitment. You might want to take this series, use it as a group study, and just take people through the whole thing. And I think it's something that you can really enjoy and use for the church's benefit. Thanks, Kevin, for this 3-part series, my friend.
Man, always good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Good talking to you as well. Thank you for being at Revitalize and Replant, sponsored by the North American Mission Board and churchreplanters.com. Along with Church Answers, we're helping churches get healthier together.